Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so here I just wanted to tell you that since the subject is a numerical oriented subject, we need some tutorial hours so that we can solve some more numericals. We are planning to keep the 6th hour, that is from 2:45 to 3:45 on every Wednesdays as a tutorial hour for this particular subject. Okay, so this we will be starting from this week itself. So tomorrow, 6th hour, we will be having the tutorial session for the circuit theory. Okay, and for this tutorial, either we will give you a tutorial sheet in advance, or the practice problems whatever we used to give in the regular class. So the solutions we will discuss in the tutorial hour. Okay, so please practice the numericals which are given as a homework problem to you. The solutions we will be taking up during this tutorial hour. Okay. And yes, so today we will start with the next topic, which will be Y delta transformations. Okay. So normally in any circuit, we will have a combination of resistors connected in a certain configuration. Okay, so either it can be plainly series, or it can be a plain parallel connection, or sometimes it can be a combination of series and parallel. Okay, so in some cases we can easily simplify this series and parallel connections. Okay, uh, in some cases we need not use any special transformations. We ourselves, by understanding whether the elements are connected in series or parallel, we can easily simplify the network. But in some cases, the network cannot be directly simplified, or the procedure becomes too complicated. So in that case, by using some transformation technique, easily we can simplify the circuit. Okay. So it has been found that two types of configurations are quite popular in most of the networks. And we will see first what is that type of configuration, and then we will see how to transform from one into the other. Okay. So can everyone see the screen properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So now,
Yeah. What is the difference between A and B, ma'am?
I will tell you. See, if you just see these two configuration, they are one and the same. Okay, they are one and the same, but structure-wise, it looks slightly different. Okay, so these two transformation basically represents the same configuration, but if it is drawn in this way, it just resembles the shape of letter Y, and it can be called as a Y network, and in the second way, it is called as a T network. Okay, so this can be either called as a Y network or a T network. Basically, if you see this common point between all these three resistors, R1, R2, R3, are the common point where all the three resistors meet. And if you just see the second network given by B, there also R1, R2, R3 are meeting at the same point. Only thing, it is in terms of structure, there is a difference. Okay, which when we visualize, it looks like they are different, but basically they both represent the same thing. Okay, so this can be either called as a T network, or it can be called as a Y network. And rather than calling it as T, the common terminology is it can be called as a Y network. Okay, so this type of configuration is one configuration. Yes.
Is this star to delta conversion and delta to star conversion?
Yes. Okay, maybe you have already learned it.
Yes, ma'am.
Last time you have learned. Okay. Okay. I'm not going deep into this. I will be giving you the formulas, and later we will solve some numericals. Okay. So this can also be in some textbooks. They call this as a star connection also. Okay. so this is one type of configuration which is quite prominent in circuits, and similarly we have the next one, which is called as the delta connection. Okay. So either it looks like the form of a delta, or the same configuration can also be redrawn in this way, and here we call this as a pi connection. Okay, because it just resembles the shape of a pi. Okay, but however, both represent the same thing. Okay. However, quite prominently, these two are called as Y and delta connections, or star and delta connections. Okay, and say for example, when we have a T configuration in a network, sometimes it may be difficult for us to directly simplify. Okay, and in that case, if we transform from Y to delta, then the final equivalent resistance can be computed in a much easier way. Okay, so we have to understand how to do the Y to delta transformation and vice versa. Okay, so first let us see the Y delta transformation. I am not going into detail of this because this is just a recap for you. Okay, and the formulas you would have already learned, but it's just like a review of whatever you have already learned. Okay, so here just a minute, it has to be Y to delta first. Yes. Okay, so first we will see this Y to delta conversion. Okay, so it means that the Y network is available and we have to find the equivalent delta network. Okay, so we assume that R1, R2, R3 are known, and we have to find what is RA, RB and RC. Okay, and we have the formulas for finding this conversion. So say for example, if you are finding RA is obtained by finding the sum of the product of two resistances at a time. Okay, so it is like R1 R2 plus R2 R3 plus R3 R1 divided by the resistance which is opposite to that of RA. Okay, so if you just see this configuration, R1 is opposite to that of RA, so divided by the resistance which is opposite to that of what we are determining. So that will give us RA. The same thing we can repeat for the remaining two resistances. Okay. So it means that each resistor in the delta network can be found by summing all the possible products of this Y resistors by taking two resistances at a time and dividing by the opposite resistor value. So that will help us to give the Y to delta conversion. Okay, you can just take, note down these formulas. Okay. So in the same way, we will also learn the delta to Y conversion. Have you all copied this?
Ma'am?
1 minute, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, also will you explain the practice problem which you have given yesterday at the end of the session?
That's what the practice problem solution we will discuss in tomorrow's tutorial hour.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So maybe for students who have joined late, I think I have already told the other students. So every Wednesday, 6th hour will be a tutorial hour where we will be discussing the solution for the practice problems. Okay. Because otherwise we may not be able to complete the topics. We will be delaying so much or lagging so much. However, you practice the problems on a daily basis. Okay, do not keep everything for the tutorial hour. So each day evening you try to solve the homework problems and keep it, and the solution we will be discussing in the tutorial hours. Okay. So I hope you have copied this formula. Now, in the same way, we will have this delta to Y conversion. Okay, so rather than remembering the formula, if you just remember the statement, that is quite easy. So the next conversion is delta to Y conversion. Okay. So here we have the delta values RA, RB, RC, and we have to find what is R1, R2, R3. Okay. So say for example, for finding R1, it is the product of the two resistors which are present on either of its sides divided by the sum of all the resistances RA, RB, RC. So that gives us R1. Okay. The same way we can find R2 and R3. So the product of the two resistors on both sides divided by sum of all the three resistors. And this delta to y and y to delta, since already you have learned, I will give you some practice problems. So directly you can do it as a practice problem, okay? Because this does not need any explanation. Just by analyzing the circuit, you yourself will be able to do, okay? So I'll give you some 2-3 numericals which you can take it as a practice. So we will see the practice problem. So check down the first one. So a Y network is given, we have to transform to a delta network. Okay, so this is the first practice problem for in this Y to delta conversion. Okay, so the next numerical, have you copied this one?
1 minute, ma'am. Done, ma'am.
Yes. I hope others have also copied it. Okay, the next numerical is we have to find the equivalent resistance of the circuit, okay, at these terminals where the terminals are shown, okay. So at this point, you have to find the equivalent resistance. Carefully observe the circuit, check whether any star to delta or delta to star conversion is required. Only if it is required, apply. Otherwise, try to solve by considering series parallel connection, okay. You have to carefully observe the circuit and do it. So finally, you have to find what is the equivalent resistance of the terminals. Okay, so this is a second practice problem for finding the equivalent resistance. And we'll have one more. Have you copied this?
1 minute, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so here carefully observe the circuit, and only if it is required you go for the transformation, and see which transformation will give you the answer in few steps. Okay, so that carefully if you observe the circuit you will be able to understand which conversion you have to do. Okay, so we'll go to the next numerical. And this is the third one. Find the equivalent resistance and the circuit of the figure. So the solution for the previous class practice problems and these three we will be discussing in the next class, okay, in the tutorial session. Okay, have you copied?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
1 minute.
Ma'am, 1 minute, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Okay, so the next topic what we are going to see is the mesh and the nodal analysis. Okay, so we have learned the basic fundamental laws which governs the circuit analysis. We also have seen what will happen when resistors are in series as well as in parallel, how to apply the current division rule as well as the voltage division technique. Okay, and in today's class we will discuss in detail about the mesh analysis. Okay. So now, so have you learned mesh analysis in your previous semester? Basic mesh analysis?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the basic mesh analysis you are aware of. In our class, we will be discussing the mesh analysis with independent as well as dependent voltage sources, as well as we will also learn how to do the mesh analysis if there is a current source. Okay. So now, you know, basically mesh or a loop is nothing but it is a closed loop in a circuit. Okay. And by applying certain sequence of steps, we will be able to solve the unknown currents. Okay. And here, the assumption is that the circuit will have only voltage sources. Okay. So that is the first category what we are going to see. The circuit will have only voltage sources, and we will be solving this circuit to find the unknown currents I1 and I2. Okay, and the number of currents depends on the number of loops, and these currents are basically called as the loop currents or mesh currents. Okay, so they are basically called as the loop current or mesh current. So now this is a sequence of step for finding this I1 and I2. So if a circuit is given to you, first you will assign I1, I2, etc. up to IN depending on the number of meshes. Then we will be applying the Kirchhoff's voltage law on each of this loop. Okay, and once we get the equations, we will be solving those equations. Okay, so quite simple approach. You need not write the steps, okay, because you already know the mesh analysis. So directly we will take a numerical and see how to do the mesh analysis. So first we will do with an independent source, independent voltage source, and then we will do with the dependent voltage source. Okay. So now we will take this numerical in the class. So we have to find the mesh currents I1 and I2 for the circuit shown in the figure. What is the method you will be using for finding this I1 and I2 from the equations? Do you use the calculator directly, or you will use any certain rules for finding I1, I2?
Just
What is
solve
the
equations for just two variables, right? So we just solve the equations.
Okay, no, the question is, will you use the option available in the calculator to solve it directly?
Yes, ma'am. We'll just input the values, like
Equations.
equations, then it will solve and give me.
Okay, fine. Okay, so when the circuit has only resistive elements, that method is the easiest method because the calculators will directly solve. But if there is an inductor and capacitor in the circuit, what happens is the impedance values will become complex. Okay, so in that case, calculators will not directly solve. So we will follow a certain procedure. So what I will do is I will tell you the procedure also now, so that later we can make use of it when we go for AC circuit analysis. However, for DC circuits, you can directly use the calculator to solve the currents. That will be quite easy. Okay. So now we are having the circuit with two meshes. Okay, and the mesh should have a mesh current or a loop current I1 and I2. So now, since we are having voltage source, and it is easy to represent the voltage drop or rise across each of the circuit element, it is always better to go for KVL. Okay, Kirchhoff's voltage law. So now we will start writing the equations. So if there are only voltage sources, we have to use only KVL to get the answer. That is the easiest approach. Okay. So now how do we solve this equation, the circuit? So first take the first loop, okay, and go in the direction of the current. And the convention what we will follow is the same as the convention we already followed. Okay. So when we are going in the direction of the current, if there is any resistive element, there will be a voltage drop across it. So we have to take into consideration the voltage drop, and whenever we pass through a voltage source, and when we are going from minus to plus, it means that there is a rise in potential, and we will take the polarity from where we are exiting the terminal. Okay, so for this first loop, we will start from the voltage source. So we are coming out of plus 12. So the polarity is plus 12. Then we have this 2 ohm resistor. So when current is passing through the 2 ohm resistor, there will be a voltage drop. So I'm not mentioning the polarity. You can understand that whenever the current is flowing through the resistor, there will be a voltage drop. So the terminal from where it is coming out will be negative. So the second voltage can be written as minus 2 times I1. Okay. And now coming to the third element, which is 12 ohm, you can see that this 12 ohm is between two loops. Okay, it is common between two loops. So what happens? Both the currents I1 and I2 will flow. But if you just see the direction of currents, actually I1 and I2 are flowing in the opposite direction across this 12 ohm. Okay, so what happens is the net current through this 12 ohm will be the difference between I1 and I2. Okay, so the total current which is flowing through this 12 ohm is I1 minus I2. So now if you are considering for the first loop, we will go with the reference direction of I1. So when I1 is flowing below, there is a drop. Okay, so it is minus 12. And the total current flowing through this 12 ohm is I1 minus I2. So it is minus 12 into I1 minus I2. And for the fourth element, it is minus 4 I1. Okay, so this is the first equation. So in a KVL, all the terms should be a voltage term. Okay. 2 into I1 is a voltage. Similarly, 12 into I1 minus I2 is a voltage. Everything should be a voltage term. Okay. So now what we can do is we can separate out I1 and I2 so that it becomes easier for us to solve the equations. Okay. So simplify this equation, separate out I1, I2 and the constant terms. So we will have it as minus 18 I1 plus 12 I2 and take the constant term to the other side. So if you want, we can keep the constant term on the same side, and I think in the calculator we have the option of keeping the constant on the left hand side and solve it. But actually we are going to see a particular approach which will be useful at a later point of time also. Okay, so first we will learn that method, but later you can solve directly using the calculator also. Okay, that is fine. So now this is for the first loop. Similarly, we have to write the equation for the second loop. So try writing the equation for the second loop and give me the answer.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Is there any possibility that I2 that we get I2 as 0, ma'am? Because I
Yes,
got it
ma'am.
as 0.
Yeah, even I have 0.
Yes, I2 can be 0 also.
Yes, ma'am. Then I1 is 2 by 3 ampere, ma'am. That is 0.667, and
Yes.
I2 is 0.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so I think you are able to do it, and then we'll go a little bit faster. So for the second loop, there's the loop current is I2. So for the 9 ohm, it will be minus 9 I2. For this 8 volt, we are coming out of the negative terminal when we go in the direction of current. So it is minus 8 I2. Then for 3 ohm, it is minus 3 I2. And when we come for 12 ohm, it is common between two loops. So the difference current will flow. And we have to go with the convention of I2. Okay, so when we are going in this direction, it should be minus 12 into I2 minus I1. Again, separate out I1 and I2. So we'll have the second equation. So now we have two equations with the two unknowns. So directly using calculator, you can solve. Sorry?
Could you explain the second equation how we got negative?
Directly apply the KVL, no? So when you are passing through the 9 ohm, it is minus 9 I2. Then for 8 volt, it is minus 8. Then minus 3 I2. And coming to 12, we have to go in the direction of I2. So there will be a voltage drop when we come out of 12. So it has to be minus 12. And the total current through this I2 is going to be the difference between the two currents, because the two currents are flowing in opposite direction. So I1 is coming down whereas I2 is going up. And actually we are going in the direction of I2, so there will be a drop. So it is minus 12 into I2 minus I1.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am. I have small doubt, ma'am. Here there is no polarity mentioned, ma'am, for the resistors or any other circuit element except for voltage sources.
Yes, yes.
If there is polarity mentioned, ma'am, that is like last week we have done a question not related to this one, ma'am, with different that the reverse polarity is given. Is there any
Yes.
possibility that in this question also it might come or something like that, ma'am?
Yeah, it might come. But only thing is,
Then
as what I told you, when we are going in the direction of current, always there is a voltage drop. So it has to be, say for example, for this 2 ohm resistor, it has to be minus 2 I1. But if they gave a polarity opposite to that of what the regular convention is, you can write one more equation which will relate their polarity with ours.
oh, okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Like we should write negative of this, right? Like that.
So actually here when the current is flowing, it should be this should be plus and the other terminal should be negative. Okay, so if they are giving you, say for example, a voltage called as V naught, then V naught is 2 times I1. Directly we can write. But if at all, if they give an opposite polarity, say for example minus plus in the opposite way with a new voltage called as V1, then we have to write V1 is
Minus
equal
2
to,
I.
yes, minus 2 I1.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so now I1 and I2 can be directly solved from these two equations. That is one method, or we can follow an approach called as Cramer's rule. Okay, so this rule will be helpful, especially when we solve AC circuits. But however, I am just telling how the method is, so that you can use it when we go for AC circuits also. Okay, so what we have to do was, for this actually the constant should be kept on the right hand side. Okay, and we have two variables I1 and I2. So list down the two variables I1, I2, and write their corresponding coefficients in the form of a matrix. Okay, so it is equivalent to, we are representing the equations 1 and 2 in the form of a matrix representation. Okay, so the coefficients are -18 for I1 and 12 for I2. Similarly, for the second equation, the coefficient for I1 is 12 and the coefficient for I2 is -24. And on the right hand side, write the constants. Okay. Now we have to find three elements. So one is called as delta. Okay, and this delta we obtained by taking the determinant of this matrix. Okay, we take the determinant of this matrix to find delta. So this you can just note it down. Maybe for DC circuits we will not use, but for AC circuits we have to use. Okay. So first step is finding delta, taking the determinant of the matrix. Now for finding I1 and I2, we require two more determinants. So one is called as delta 1 and the other is called as delta 2. So now how we obtain delta 1 is, for finding delta 1 we are going to find for determining the first variable I1. Okay. So what we have to do is, we have to replace the first column of the matrix with the constant terms. Okay. So here we have the matrix, the first column of the matrix is -18 and 12. Replace the first column with the constant term. Okay, -12, 8. And keep the second column as such and then take the determinant. So that will give us delta 1. Okay. So delta 1 will be, take the determinant of this matrix. Okay. So this is how we find delta 1. Similarly, we have to find delta 2. So for finding delta 2 is related with the second variable I2. So for finding delta 2, replace the second column with the constants. Okay. Keep the first column as such and replace the second column with the constant. That will give us delta 2. So now delta 2 is 0. So now for finding I1, we have to use the formula delta 1 by delta. Okay. So for the first variable, we can find by taking delta 1 by delta. So we will get it as 2 by 3 amps. And similarly, I2 we will obtain by taking delta 2 by delta. Okay, and since delta 2 is 0, I2 will be 0 amps. Okay, so this is also a method by which we can obtain the variables I1 and I2.
Ma'am, once show the previous slide.
Here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so this approach is basically called as the Cramer's rule. Okay. So especially this rule is quite convenient when we have the coefficients as complex. So here right now for equations 1 and 2, the coefficients are all real values. That's the reason we are able to solve it directly using the calculator. But if it is complex, then we may not be able to do it in the calculator directly. So in that case, this approach is quite convenient. Okay. So I hope it is clear to you, the Cramer's rule. So next we will do one more numerical where we will be having a dependent voltage source. Okay. So you can copy this question. Using mesh analysis, we have to find what is the current I0 in the circuit. Have you copied the question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now for this numerical, okay, so here along with an independent source, we are having a dependent source also. And what is the nature of the source? Is it a voltage source or a current source?
Voltage source.
Current
Yes, it is
control
a-
voltage.
Current controlled voltage source.
Yes, it is controlled by the current, but it is a voltage source basically. Okay, and as I told you, if we have only voltage sources, we have to only apply the KVL for analyzing the circuit. Okay, and there are three loops in the circuit, so we have to write three equations corresponding to each of the loops. And for the dependent source, what we have to do is this voltage source is dependent on the current I0. Okay. So we have to try to eliminate this new variable by trying to find its relation with the loop currents. Okay. So with that, we will be getting three equations with three unknowns, and solving that becomes straightforward. Okay. So we'll start one by one. So for the first loop, what is the equation? So write the equation for the first loop.
Six I1 minus 2I2 equals to 20.
Okay. So minus 6I1 plus 2I2 plus 4I3 is equal to minus 20. That is the first equation. Similarly, for the second loop, this is a voltage source. So we can just write it as a voltage source equation only. Okay. So write for the second loop.
Minus 18I3 plus 4I1 plus 8I2 is equal to 0.
So now what we have to do is, see, we are having this new variable I0.
Okay.
So it is always better if you replace this I0 with the loop currents. Okay, so here we are having three loop currents, I1, I2, I3. Now, if you see, I0 is the current flowing in this particular branch. Okay, so what is the relation of this I0 with the loop current I3? I0 is the current in this branch, and if you see for the loop current, for the 6 ohm branch, the same I3 is flowing. Okay, so what we can write is we can directly write I naught is equal to I3.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I naught is equal to I3. So substitute back in the previous equation so that you can simplify this.
Ma'am, only by looking
I mean, we
at
don't need.
we are confirming that I naught is equal to I3, no, ma'am, because it is passing through the whole loop.
I3 is passing through the whole loop, that is correct. But if you consider it in terms of branches, if you consider the 6 ohm, the branch current and the loop current are the same. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And whereas when we consider this 8 ohm, if we consider for 8 ohm, this 8 ohm is common between two loops. So the current flowing through 8 ohm will be the difference between I3 and I2. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
The same thing for 4 ohm. It is common between first loop and third loop. So the difference of I3 and I1 will flow through 4 ohm. But if you see this I naught is flowing through the 6 ohm. So that is a corresponding branch current of 6 ohm, and that is equal to I3 because 6 ohm is not common between any two loops.
Okay.
Yes. So directly we can write I naught is equal to I3.
Ma'am, don't we need to multiply the I2 to the 10 I naught, ma'am?
We should not multiply. Why we should not multiply is for KVL you require voltages. Okay. This is a voltage source. It is dependent on a current, but 10 I naught is a voltage source. Altogether, this 10 I naught will give a voltage value. Okay. So there is no need for multiplying with I2.
Ma'am, also I naught.
Only for resistances you have to multiply with current to get the voltage. For KVL, all the individual terms in the KVL equation should be a voltage term.
Ma'am, also how the I naught is equal to I3, ma'am?
See, I naught is a current which is flowing through the 6 ohm and that is equal to I3, right? I3 is also flowing through 6 ohm. Both are in the same direction. So I naught is I3.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Okay. So you have to understand the difference between loop current and branch currents. So here I1, I2, I3 are basically the loop currents. So if the resistances are not common between two branches, then the loop current and the branch current will be the same. Okay. If suppose the resistances are common between two loops, then the difference between the loop currents will flow through that particular branch. Okay, so now we got the second equation. Similarly, write the third one for the third loop. So this will be minus 6I3. Then coming to this 8 ohm, it is common between two loops. So it is minus 8 into I3 minus I2. And coming to 4 ohm, it is common between third and the first loop. So it is minus 4 I3 minus I1. So separate out the constant terms and the variable terms.
Ma'am, I1 is minus 45 by 14.
Okay, actually here we do not require I1, I2, I3. We require only I naught.
Yeah, I naught is minus 5.
Yes, I naught is I3, right? So what is
Minus-
I3? Minus 5 amps. Yes.
Yes,
So I naught is minus 5 amps. Okay, so now we have to find what is I1, I2, I3. Directly you can use your calculator, okay? Though I have used the Cramer's rule approach, or you can use the calculator directly to solve it. So I hope everyone knows the method, right? So here I have shown it using the Cramer's rule, but it is not required. Or you can directly solve without this also. So I3 will be minus 5 ampere, and here in the question they are asking you to find the current I naught. So I naught is minus 5 amps. Okay, so here what I have shown is I have shown using the Cramer's rule by applying by finding delta and delta 3 and then taking the ratio of delta 3 and delta. Okay, that will also give us minus 5 amp. Okay, so the current I naught is minus 5 amp.
Ma'am.
Huh.
Ma'am, while solving for AC, we need to solve by this Cramer's rule, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Otherwise, we can solve normally by calculator also.
That's what I'm telling. For DC circuits, it is always better you use calculator because that will save your time. But this approach is what we will follow for AC circuits.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So now we have seen how to solve mesh analysis when we are having a voltage source. Okay. We saw two cases. In first case, we saw only independent sources, and in the second case, we saw independent source as well as a dependent source. So even though it is a dependent source, we need not worry because if it is a voltage source, we have to just treat it as a voltage. Okay. And for any voltage, again, do not multiply with current because multiplying a voltage with current will give us power. Okay. So in KVL, all the individual terms should be a voltage term. Okay. And if it is a dependent source, you see the variable where it is dependent on and try to express that variable in terms of the loop current. Okay. So by that we can solve the circuit. Now, the third type of mesh analysis what we are going to see is mesh analysis when there is a current source. Okay. So now, as I told you, for applying mesh analysis, we require KVL. So all the individual terms should be a voltage term. But if there is a current source, we will not know what is the voltage across the current source unless they explicitly mention. Okay. And neither we know what is the internal resistance of the current source. So we assume that the current source is perfect in nature. So we will not know what is the resistance of the current source. So in such case, we have to follow a certain method. Okay. So there are again two subdivisions possible when we are doing mesh analysis with current sources. Okay. So the first case is when the current source exists in only one mesh. Okay. It is not common for two loops. It is present only in one loop or it is present only in one mesh as what is shown in the figure. Okay. So here for the first mesh we do not have any problem because we are having only voltage source. Whereas for the second mesh, instead of a voltage source, we are having a current, and this current source exists only in this mesh. It is not common to the other mesh. Okay. So in this case, how to solve the currents I1 and I2 we will see. Okay. So when there is a current source which is present only in one mesh, actually the number of equations reduces and it is easy to solve for such kind of cases. Okay. So what we have to do is, for the first mesh we do not have any problem, right? We will write a KVL. And for the second mesh, what we can do is, there is no need for writing a KVL equation for the second mesh. Instead, we can directly find this unknown current I2. Okay. So for that, you observe in which direction I2 is flowing and in which direction the current source is generating the current. So from this example, we can see that I2 is flowing down, whereas the current 5 ampere is going up. So we can write I2 is equal to minus 5 amp. Okay. We can directly get the value of the mesh current if you are having a current source in that particular mesh and the current source is present only in that mesh and it is not common with the other mesh. Okay, so directly we can write I2 is equal to minus 5 ampere. And for finding I1, we have to write the KVL equation for the first loop. So for the first loop, we can write it as 10 minus 4I1 minus 6 I1 minus I2, because for the 6 ohm, it is common between two meshes. So the current flowing through that will be the difference between the two currents. Since we are going to write the loop equation for the first loop, the reference direction should be in the direction of I1. Okay, so it is minus 6 into I1 minus I2. And I2 value we have already determined from the current source. So by substituting I2 as minus 5, with a single equation, we can find the other unknown current, which is I1. Okay. So it is actually quite easy if you have a current source present only in one mesh. It will reduce the number of equations. Okay. And only thing is, we have to ensure in which direction the loop current and the current source are flowing. If they are in the same direction, take both the polarity to be positive, but if they are flowing in the opposite direction, put a negative sign. Okay. So this is the first case, and the second case we will discuss in tomorrow's class. Okay, in the next class. And as I told you, tomorrow 6th hour we will have the tutorial session for the practice problems. So all the practice problems, try it and come. We will discuss the solution in tomorrow's class. Okay. So with this, we will wind up today's discussion. Thank you one and all.
Thank you.